guys, the decision by Josh McDaniels is to try the field goal for a 7-point lead. 52-yard try by Daniel Carlson. He hits the upright. No good. Four-man rush. Love. End zone. Intercepted. Good night. Picked off by Amik Robertson.
Good night to the Green Bay Packers. The call there from Joe Buck on ESPN. Jordan Love threw 3 interceptions, including that final pass picked off in the end zone right in front of Christian Watson. The deciding play in a 17-13 win for the Las Vegas Raiders in a very rowdy environment there. That's a good, that is, I've said it before in the show, and again, and I know there's a lot of Packers fans in that building, but that's a good vibe. That's a good primetime vibe. There's a lot of energy in that building for these primetime games, and maybe that's part of just the Raiders allure of it all. Dan Hanzus here, Gregg Rosenthal there. Greggy, this was, I'll remember this game for Max Crosby going ham and just game-wrecking in a way that even the box score maybe doesn't tell the whole story. And the Raiders surviving another Josh McDaniels head-scratcher. They advance and end a 3-game losing streak.
I know. I'm like trying to decide whether I start positive or start negative, because the negative is McDaniels, the positive is Crosby. Let's start Crosby, because this has been a bad Raiders era. I don't see it getting better. This win didn't change my mind. They're now 2-3. To me, they're a team destined for between 5 and 7 wins. And to win that many games, you got to get some. And a home game against this Packers team who's searching is a logical place to get it. But I do think if you're a Raiders fan, players like Max Crosby specifically, he is the player. Now you have Devontae Adams too, but he is the player that's been the Raiders the last few years, balling out in primetime and showing the national audience who he is in a way that I just don't think you could appreciate unless you're watching him snap to snap, game to game, just ball out. He is one of the best defensive players in the entire NFL. It's crazy how many great edge rushers we have, but he's right there with all of them. And you're right, it was a sack, 4 tackles for loss, which is a huge number, but also just hurries and making Jordan Love uncomfortable. And no matter what they're doing, whether it's throw 2 tight ends at him or throw a double team or he's looping all the way inside, he was just everywhere playing with his hair on fire. And in a game that, like, we talked about it, we can get into it. Is this a good game? Is this a bad game? I don't know, but there was like 2 great players in it. Devontae Adams was quiet and showed up a little late, but Max Crosby was truly great. And I think he was basically the reason the Raiders won this game 17-13.
Jackpot, baby!
Thank you, Brent. He's the heart and soul of that defense. He is. I was thinking about it while I was watching one of the many, cutaways where they showed him either on the field or on the sideline with his helmet off. Has a guy ever looked like he should be playing for the Raiders more than Max Crosby? It was kismet how he landed there, and we know about his personal struggles that he dealt with and addiction, and he overcame that, and now he has a wife and a baby who's turning 1 next week, and it's all a great success story for Max Crosby. And there was a great moment. I don't know if you saw this, Greggy, because you were wrapping up your overseas telecast.
Channel 5, shout out to the Channel 5 viewers who are up.
The Channel 5 news team. Lisa Salters is beginning an interview with Crosby post-game, and this is his big game and his big stage and a big moment in his career here in primetime after a dramatic win. And Rich Bisaccia, who was an assistant head coach when Crosby came into the league with the Raiders. He was the interim coach in 2021. Bisaccia kind of grabs him by the hand, and they have this embrace, kind of a pretty emotional, like, I love you, man, type embrace. And it was a reminder, again, of this journey that Crosby has been on for a Raiders team that seems, in general, Greggy, and maybe we said before we get to the Packers, some of the other sense around the Raiders, that they seem like an organization stuck in neutral with a middle-of-the-road quarterback in Jimmy G and a head coach that, let's just kind of touch on what gave the Packers a chance to even steal this game, because I was, they came back from commercial and they all of a sudden Daniel Carlson's lining up for a field goal, and I had to do like a double take because I said that's impossible. They have a fourth and 2. I think it was a fourth.
It's
and
a very
long
short
one.
2, long one. I'm giving it.
And so you have Josh Jacobs, and I know Josh Jacobs hasn't been vintage Josh Jacobs this season after
Look
the holdout
tonight.
and everything.
I'm telling you, I know the numbers weren't crazy, but he's good.
Getting there, and you saw it last week. He had a quality game, and tonight he did some things. And you are up by 4 points. If you get the first down, it's over. You could punt it away and give Jordan Love on a day where the offense of the Packers are struggling a long field and dare them to score a touchdown. The one decision you don't make, and by the way, all the pop the hood analytics back this up, is you don't go for the field goal. Because even if you make the long field goal, which they don't, because even though he's a great kicker, Daniel Carlson bangs it off the upright, you're still only up 7. And you're kicking the ball back to Green Bay, and they have a chance to tie or even win if they score a touchdown and go for 2. So the fact that McDaniels makes that decision, and it's not the first time now, Greg, in this Josh McDaniels era that he's making decisions that the opposing team, the players, the coaching staff, the fans are all hyped when they see McDaniels making a certain decision, and that's how you know it was the wrong one. They got away with one, and McDaniels, again, I don't know where Mark Davis is at right now in terms of how he feels about the state of his team and the head coach who's under fire. But that could have been a situation where they blow that game, and what happens on Tuesday morning, I don't know. So McDaniels ducks a lightning bolt here, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. And sometimes it's not even about analytics. It's just like, use common sense.
Right.
All you have to do is make a play and you win the game, and that play is a 2-yard gain. You've been running it pretty well. The offense had just had a go-ahead touchdown drive in the fourth quarter. They also had a 3-and-out right after the interception. But they were moving the ball on this drive. It was actually an impressive drive. They got the ball back, I believe, with about, 4.5 minutes to go. Checking here, 5.5 minutes to go, and they pick up a few first downs and burn some clock. And you're like, okay, Raiders, be a professional team here. All you need is 2 more yards, and that wins the game. What's even a higher likelihood? Making a 52-yard field goal or picking up 2 yards? It's about the same, except one ends the game and the other doesn't at all. And his defense saves him. And to Mark Davis, you saw him. Looks like he's happy in his relationship, but I don't think he was happy with Josh McDaniels. They showed his face after that swing pass to who is it? DeAndre Carter, their kick returner, on 3rd and goal. Yeah. When you have Davante Adams on your team, and Mark Davis looked pissed. That was the 3-and-out after the interception. And so that was kind of an example in this game where the defense is balling out, where the offense had a chance to really, go up 2 scores in that situation. And they're throwing like 8 yards short of the end zone on 3rd and goal. And they had another 3-and-out that came after Love's second interception of the night, which was in the fourth quarter. And so even though the offense did enough tonight to win, and we can give a little more on the offense if you want, I didn't feel any differently really about this. They didn't top 300 yards. They did just enough to win.
Yeah, I think Davante Adams was also interviewed after the game. I saw it on ESPN before I popped down here, and he acknowledged that he's not 100%, that he's kind of grinding a little bit right now. I think it's the shoulder, and that partially maybe affected why he wasn't his usual game-wrecking self. So, I mean, they're going to be in a bad spot. This isn't we've talked about it before, this Raiders offense, and even on the other side of the ball with Max Crosby, the clear headliner, has some top-line talent, but not a lot of depth. And when you take Davante Adams out of it, or at least the top form of himself, Jacoby Myers is a pretty good number 2, but he's no number 1. We're still waiting for Michael Mayer, the first-round pick tight end, to make a big difference. We know Hunter Renfrow is lost in space, has been all season long. He's in the doghouse, apparently, with Josh McDaniels. And Josh Jacobs is yet to really find his form. So this is maybe a little less than what they're typically able to give you, but this is not a team that's going to give you 400 total yards a week. I mean, about 350, I think, is what they're designed to do, in the hope that Crosby makes a big play. It's a pretty the needle to thread for Raiders to win games. It's pretty tight, and as you could see today,
they need Jimmy G to play better. I don't think this was a great Jimmy G game. when there was a play where Meyer could have had a big play, and it was a second reaction play where Jimmy's on the move, and he missed it, and Troy Aikman was apoplectic about it. But I was just like, that's kind of who Jimmy G is. He's not going to make second reaction play, and the timing's a little off. His decision-making's been a little off. I think he and Josh McDaniels might be a little surprised how slow the transition's been for Jimmy G, because I thought he might be an upgrade on how Derek Carr played last year. And Derek Carr didn't play well for the Raiders last year, and he hasn't been. I would say so far he's been a little bit of a downgrade, but he did make just enough plays tonight, and professional wide receiver Jacoby Myers helped them get across the line. He had a nice game.
And Derek Carr is always catching strays on this show from people that are not me. But, the fact that he was able to step in and the team was whatever, but at least Devontae Adams was still Devontae Adams. And maybe he's just not healthy right now this season.
He was before this week, but you're right. Like, Jimmy G can't throw the ball down the field. He can't really do second reaction
He's a
plays.
tough watch, Garoppolo. And I just wonder, Greg, like when it comes time for Josh McDaniels, because the rubber's going to meet the road here, and this team is going to be heading towards Crossroads Station despite today's good outcome. How long he sticks with Garoppolo when he could get a look at O'Connell, a further look at him. We'll see. I don't know how many starts Garoppolo has left.
They have the Patriots. They have one hard game. I'm forgetting who it is off the top of my head. And then they have both New York teams. So it actually was like, no win is guaranteed for the Raiders, but I looked at that schedule and I was like, they can maybe go 3-2 with that schedule, and maybe get to 4-5. And when you're hoping that's the upside, that's not an exciting place to be. But when Josh McDaniel is breaking out 7 different trick plays, it's a sign he knows he doesn't really have an offense other than the trick plays.
Correction, Michael Mayer was a second-round pick in the fourth pick of the second round. Man, you don't need that, Greggy, as the Patriot fan. Now you get a Jimmy Garoppolo revenge game on the plate. What else could go wrong?
That would be a dark moment, I guess, losing to this Raiders team, but how much lower can it get? That's as good as a possible, opponent you could have. By the way, Pats, Bears, Lions, and then both New York teams. You
should be okay. If you
could also lose all those games. They're capable of doing that too.
And now the other side of it. And listen, Aaron Jones is a surprise scratch here. Apparently, he had a setback with the hamstring, and now he's back. It's up in the air what his situation is. They give the ball to A.J. Dillon to various levels of success in this game, but the Jordan Love thing, this was the worst game that I know. He's had really exciting, promising games. He's had some bad games. This one was probably the worst that I've seen him play. It just felt like he could not get comfortable, really settle himself into this game. There was, 3 interceptions. One of them, I believe the second pick, or the first, but they were all kind of bad, actually. Even the third one, I know it's kind of desperation time, but it's just a balloon into the end zone. And what do you take out of the Love performance? And in general, Greg, what have you thought of him now that we've gotten a 5-game look at him?
I'm getting a little concerned. I think the last 2 games have been his worst 2 in a row now. One against Detroit, and now this one, both in primetime. Erratic. He had the highest average air yards per attempt going into this game. It was almost 10. So everything was down the field, and it was like, let's count on his big arm and let's take all these chances. And they were hitting enough big plays that you were excited about it. Today, he almost didn't throw anything over 10 yards. At one point in the second half, he was 2 for 6 on throws over 10 yards with 2 interceptions. And he ended up throwing that third interception on another deep pass. And all I could think watching this game was they literally didn't have a straight drop back passing game.
No, he was.
All it was a couple rollouts and a couple play actions. But if you asked him, and I know I'm going on too much, but that Crosby sack was one of the biggest plays in the game because it put them in a situation where they actually had to drop back and pass on a normal play, for lack of a better word, where there wasn't a bunch of things going on and play action. And that's where Marcus Peters made a nice play and tipped it, and there was an interception. He just couldn't do it. He was scrambled looking at the defense.
Yeah, he finished 16 of 30, 182, no touchdowns, 3 picks. Warren Sharp tweeted out, on passes thrown over 5 yards tonight, 3 of 11 with 3 picks, negative .78 EPA per attempt. It just wasn't happening for this passing game. And, you know, it was never going to be an easy ride for the Packers, but I first year post Rodgers, but I think there was, and I know there was, because we talked a lot about it in the summer, there was a general sense of optimism, both the way last season ended and then just this is why you got to really be careful during the summer. I mean, there was such glowing praise pouring out of Wisconsin. You thought that Jordan Love was essentially going to just hit the ground running as a third Hall of Famer, and it's just very clear it's not that way right now, and this is going to be a player that needs time to develop. That said, you know, Greg, he's in his 4th year. So I know this is his first year as a full-time starter. What kind of leash does a guy get when he has that unusual ramp-up period in today's game? Obviously this season, but I think overall, if I had to give him a grade so far, I'd probably hit him with a C+.
Yeah, I'd give him a C. I don't think he's a normal rookie or like young player to talk about because he's not even on his rookie contract anymore. They re-signed him for this sort of weird in-between 2-year deal where he has some guaranteed money into next year, and he's making closer to Geno money on that 5th-year option, like that level quarterback, than he is like a guy in his 2nd or his 3rd year. So I'm not going to push the panic button, though, because it's such a long season, and they do have some good excuses in terms of their offensive line has been shuffling every week. Watson hasn't been healthy until this game was his first complement of full snaps, but they looked better in the first couple weeks. It's always a little concerning to me because I think the first few weeks, it's almost like extended preseason, and LaFleur was cooking up some really open receivers, and I feel like October, you settle into the season, you start settling into teams that are stacking, that they're building. I think the Raiders defense kind of showed tonight, okay, they're starting to get a little bit better in terms of the different things they can do, and the Packers aren't stacking. They're backing. They're backing up.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, I think another thing maybe working against Love right now from a public opinion standpoint is, yes, there was the summer of hype, the start, there were signs early in the season that this was going to work. There was that dramatic Saints comeback, and then now we've had back-to-back island games, one Thursday night football against the Lions where the team was mostly non-competitive, and now you go on the road against a middling, mediocre Raiders team, and
like the 31st defense in DVOA going.
Yeah, you can't clear 300 total yards, and you can't put together substantial drives, and you get a gift from the opposing head coach and set up at midfield with a chance to really steal that game, and you don't really do anything with it. So that's a disappointing loss for the Packers. And if we're gonna look at the Raiders schedule, take a peek here. They got at Denver next week, home Vikings, home Rams, at Pittsburgh. So, that's I just don't know what to make sense of them really right now. So it's hard to even know what that means. It's not a killer schedule. It's not exactly soft either. We shall see.
It goes back to your original question before we even got on. Was like, was this a good game? Because because it's like the primetime games have been pretty bad, and what I would say was it was a good bad game because it provided enough tension. It was back and forth. At one point, it looked like it was going to be Raiders by 2 scores. Then it was the Packers were ahead. It went back and forth. There's people we know. Oh, Jimmy G, he's handsome. Like, I like that guy, Devontae Adams, Crosby. And it had some drama at the end. But you never left the feeling that, oh, these two teams aren't great. That this Packers team, unless they change, and they feel like a team that could change by week 13, they could be a different team. But right now, they're a pretty bad team that's going to need to get enough wins so that they don't get buried, and it didn't happen. Shout out to Amik Robinson. That Robertson. That's my last point of this game. Was that dude's 5'9", and he's skied up there. It's rare you get beat that badly on a play, and then you have the game-winning play because Watson killed him off the line. And I don't blame Love too much for being late on the throw because he got pressured quickly. It was Malcolm Kuntz, actually, that pressured him, made him move, so the timing was a little late. But I forget who it is. It might be Orlovsky says it's not just making like the right throw in terms of decisions. It's like the choice of what kind of throw you make when you throw it. And Love just kind of lofted that ball up there. And he's got one of the strongest arms in the league. And since he was behind, he needed to put his heater on that because he's got more of a heater where he could have flattened that thing out and gotten that something there quicker because Robertson was beat, and he made a really nice athletic play for like a fourth-string cornerback covering Christian Watson, skying for the interception.
And this one's for the frustrated Packers fans. My final thought is, Joe Barry is not a very popular guy there. They're DC. That moment on the Raiders go ahead and, ultimately game-winning touchdown drive where the scheme had outside linebacker Preston Smith lining up against Devontae Adams without any help. 17-yard gain, which puts them in business and sets up the touchdown, I believe, by Josh Jacobs. And then the other thing,
got Troy laughing. I always like it when he gets Troy.
Yeah,
laughing.
That's never good. And then it's also, and this drives me crazy about the Jets because I think it points directly back to coaching. This team has not been ready to play the last 3 weeks. They've been outscored 54-6 in the first half of their last 3 games. So, they got a lot to work on, but so too do the Raiders. So I don't think we're going to see these teams in the Super Bowl, but they gave us a competitive game. How about that?
They both deserve to be 2-3. So I kind of almost am glad this Packers team doesn't deserve to be 3-2.
All right, let's pivot. So that's Monday Night Football, and that is the close of Week 5. Look at that, Greg. 5 weeks in the can.
We almost got a bird to catch. Not quite. Actually, we got a whole nother show before we catch a bird, so I shouldn't even point that out.
We do. And if you're wondering, where's Mark Sessler? Mark is at the Dodgers game right now with friends.
Got a big week. He's got a big week this week, Mark Sessler.
And, he had a little bit of a late heads up. Hey, I'm not going to be doing the show tonight. Some type of thing about a miscommunication. I don't know if we bought it or not, Greg, but it's okay. He's got a big birthday tomorrow.
He does.
That was like I didn't even give him pretend grief, let alone real grief, because I was like, you know what, baby boy's got a big day tomorrow. He
can do whatever he wants. Although you're giving him a little grief right now.
This is love. This is love. I'm happy that he's not doing. I'm happy Mark, of all people, who is no fan of the Raiders.
Oh yeah. Or baseball, for that matter.
So he had to choose, I guess, between the Raiders and baseball, and he chose baseball. So the national pastime gets a W there.
I love a little live baseball. Playoffs, live baseball is much different than TV baseball.
Right. Well, thank you for validating baseball in the live setting. I love watching baseball on the couch as well. But listen, I'm not as advanced as you. I don't understand.
We
tennis.
all like different things. It's fine. I'm just saying you could. It doesn't matter what age, no matter where I am, who the teams are. I'll go watch a live baseball game. I watched the semi-pro game in Massachusetts. I watched 4 games in Tokyo. I was going to the baseball stadium.
Look at you. All right, let's get to it. News. Let's start with, this is not surprising. This is not good news, but it's not the worst news. Shane Steichen, Colts head coach, said Anthony Richardson, the injury-plagued rookie quarterback, will miss, quote, some time with a sprained AC joint. I think, Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a report out there that he'll be heading to injured reserve.
Not just a report, but a report from our guy, Ian Rappaport.
Right, which will take him out. You know what? I still struggle with this. What did they change? Now it's 4 games at least, the IR designation?
Yeah, and Ian added some context that it might be through their bye, which I believe would be 5 games plus a bye. So he thought it would be extra time, and he's reporting this exclusively. Nice job by Rapshi, because no one else seemed to know what the timeline was, but it sounds like he's got a pretty good idea that he might be out through the bye, which I believe would be 5 games.
Yeah, and that's, I said it on the show on Sunday. The way he came off the field, you had Derek Carr not miss a start with the same injury, but this is you could tell it was a different level of this injury, and it was something you were not going to see him this upcoming week. And sure enough, this is something where it might be a month and a half where he's out of the lineup. And hopefully, first of all, the Colts are in the thick of things in the AFC South, and they have a luxury in one of the best backups, if not the best backup quarterback in the league, in Gardner Minshew. So I think they'll continue to keep their head above water. But this year is about largely Richardson and him really settling in as the face of the franchise. And you just hope when he does get back on the field, he puts it behind him because it's been a hellacious start in terms of health. In other news, Kevin
I just
O'Connell.
want to give you
Yes.
the schedule, by the way.
Yes.
Cleveland, because it's 5 weeks. By the way, he wouldn't be back until November 26th. We'll be done with Thanksgiving. Like 5 weeks doesn't sound like much, but we'll be past Thanksgiving.
So he'll be ready for when the season truly starts. It checks out, actually.
Week 12. At Jacksonville, then home for the Browns and the Saints. That's a tough 3-game slate to start out. They'll be underdogs probably in all three. Saints is kind of a pick 'em. And then at Carolina and Patriots right now, two of the worst teams in the league. If you can go 2-3 there, you're 500 coming out of the bye, and at least Anthony Richardson is returning for some meaningful games.
I think, call it a prediction, I think they're going to be okay. I think they will be in the mix when Richardson reemerges because I think this team has got something going on, and if Jonathan Taylor can find his footing, he could help cover up for Richardson's absence. Kevin O'Connell, the head coach of the Vikings, following their loss on Sunday, in which Justin Jefferson exited the game with a hamstring injury. He was a little cagey about it on Sunday after the game, and on Monday, in comments to reporters, it sounded like they're gonna be careful with the most important player in the franchise.
I think there'll probably be a couple different opinions on it, but we got to get the MRI of it and take a look and find out exactly what it is, where it is. If there's any other factors that go into it, and determine what the best decision for him to get him back to 100% as fast as possible. But he's down today. He obviously is one of the most ultra competitors I've ever met. And shoot, he was trying to go back in the game as it was yesterday. So we're going to have to medically make a good decision and help, kind of almost protect him from himself a little bit in a way where we got to take care of him and get him back to 100%.
I like that football talk. It's a little good football jargon. Yeah, he's down today. That's like Sessler. Sessler's down tonight, and we're gonna get him back on Tuesday.
Wait, he's saying down emotionally. I think Mark's up. He's having fun.
Oh, okay. I think
he's
down
saying because he's
means-
so passionate, he's down in the dumps because he knows he's going to be out for a little while.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a misunderstanding. I thought it was down like the football term. Oh, he's down like he wasn't involved in any of the. But you're right. It's Monday anyway. Oh, he's down. That's not good. That totally changes how I feel about everything. Sounds like a guy who's going to miss some time.
I really thought O'Connell telegraphed this last night, and because he keeps saying 100%, we need to get him back to 100%. We need to make the best decisions for the long-term health of Justin Jefferson. And the way he said it, we got to protect him from himself. I mean, I think this is a problem. I mean, I would be stunned if he played this week, and it just reminds me a little bit of Cooper Kupp. Like, I think you want to be careful with these hamstrings so that they don't recur. And this is troubling. But I also think Justin Jefferson's contract is something like he's looking for a new contract. That's something that they're trying to protect him, I think, and I don't think he's going to play for a little bit by that sound.
Yeah, I think you mentioned what I was going to mention, which was they have a warning shot fired in what happened in Los Angeles with Cooper Kupp, who they tried to bring a guy back a little before maybe he was ready, and then he had a setback, and boom, he misses the first quarter of the season. So let's hope Justin Jefferson doesn't miss too much time, and when he comes back, he's Justin Jefferson, because the Vikings are not a very competitive team without him on the field. I don't know if they win games without that guy on the field. The Giants are having trouble winning games this year, and it's not going to get any easier if Daniel Jones isn't on the field. The quarterback suffered a neck injury in the blowout loss to the Dolphins. Brian Daboll said on Monday he is, quote, optimistic about Jones playing against the Bills in Week 6. However, Greggy, maybe a little tempered. We temper this with Rap Sheet's reporting on what he was hearing around the team.
Yeah, he said it's uncertain, and another local beat writer pointed out that Daboll made it clear that his optimism came from talking to Daniel Jones, and that this was an injury similar to one that he's had before. And in that very situation, Daniel Jones kept saying, I can play. And when it came down to it, because it was a neck injury, the doctors said, no, you can't. And he had to miss time. So that's Sunday Night Football. That's against the Bills. Man, it's dark. We've covered how dark it is. And Nick Shook and Patrick Claiborne will actually be covering that Sunday night game for us this week. So we don't have to cover Tyrod maybe starting in primetime against his old team. Yikes. Oh, man.
That could be tough. Also tough. I told you, my old man, Keith, tore his Achilles right in front of me this summer. That sucked. Terrible injury, the Achilles tear.
Where did that happen? Back east?
It happened in Texas when we were on vacation. We got the grandparents together. It was just a terrible, terrible time for the family, and he's in recovery after surgery and getting rehab and on his way back, which is great, and my dad's doing great with it. But it is a long and arduous rehab. And then, of course, we know what happened to Aaron Rodgers, fourth play of the season. He blew his Achilles. The most important player on the Jets' offensive line is Elijah Vera Tucker, or I would say the most talented player, former first-round pick. He limped off the field against the Broncos at Mile High Stadium, the same stadium where a year ago, almost to the day, he suffered a torn triceps injury that ended his season. He limps off the field. They think he's okay, and then they do some more testing. Elijah Vera Tucker blew his Achilles, so he's out for the year, and he now has surgery and a long and arduous rehab ahead of him. Just a brutal blow for Vera Tucker and the Jets. Vera Tucker, who has been bouncing around the line for a couple of years now, but they had recently kicked him over from guard, his natural spot, to right tackle, and there appeared to be, Greg, some level of stability with Mekhi Becton on the left side, and Joe Tippmann, the second-round pick, had taken over at guard and was doing some good things, and it felt like maybe they were getting somewhere. And now you take Vera Tucker out of it. It crushed their line last year, and it's not good news for them this year.
Yeah, what do they got? They got Billy Turner. They got those guys they keep cycling through. Max Mitchell. I feel like I know the backup Jets tackles too well.
Because they kind of, when they were dealing with injury issues this summer, they tried to get these guys, these journeymen, to stick on the left and right tackle, and that blew up, and now they have no choice. And Mekhi Becton labored through the Denver game. I don't know how much longer he's going to be sticking around either. So we're kind of back to square one, with which has been a kind of a cursed position group under Joe Douglas, which is ironic, Greggy, because that was supposed to be his bread and butter, the trenches.
And now you got the Eagles, who are the team he came from and actually, are the model of how to build your trenches. And, yeah, you got to be a little concerned with that matchup heading into the bye week.
I'm also concerned with Devon Achane, the running back who's averaging like 13 yards a carry this year. Amazing speed, just has gone from healthy scratch in week one to the most exciting young player or running back in football this side of Bijan Robinson. A little concerned about a knee injury that popped up. Here's Mike McDaniel talking about what Achane is dealing with and if he's in danger of missing time.
Is he undergoing like an MRI today or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's various things that he's undergoing, handshakes as well, high fives. I think he, from all accounts, he had a good breakfast and lunch.
I mean, we love McDaniel, but I would hope, Greggy, that unless they must feel confident that he's not facing any serious absence, or that's probably going to be one that McDaniel's going to want to have back if we get bad news tomorrow.
Well, I think he was pressed on it in fairness to McDaniel for a little while, so that wasn't the first question, and they were like, "Are you confident he'll return this season?" And I was like, whoa, where did that come from, that question? It made me wonder what they know, whoever's asking the question. And then he just started humming and didn't want to say anything. He's like, I don't like to talk about, I don't like to speculate. I don't think about anything until I know the facts. And then he was in a Mike McDaniel press conference spiral, but I don't mind.
I was thinking about this, Greg. I didn't bring it up on Sunday because it didn't occur to me until this morning. You're a great person to get, takes on Mike McDaniel press conferences, because I think there's a lot of similar DNA with you guys. I think you have there's a natural kinship perhaps between you guys. There's some type of energy wire that connects you, that is invisible, and you could understand where he's coming from, and he too of you if you were to actually meet.
I would love to meet him. I'm taking that as a compliment. I think that might, be true, and I'd like to believe it was true. I like to think in this situation, yeah, he starts making jokes because he's like nervous. He's trying to make light of. He already kind of stepped into it and got stuck in a position where he doesn't want to be answering these questions, and he's just trying to deflect with humor. Sometimes better than others.
I've been there many times, Greg, where maybe things got a little bit uncomfortable, and then Greg throws in something that is kind of a wild comment, and it's a little McDaniel-esque.
Yeah, it's like you take an uncomfortable situation and then you could try to fix it, or let's just drop a bomb to make it more uncomfortable, and then
right.
That'll solve it.
It's kind of a little bit of a Larry David vibe in there as well.
I'm a little worried though, and it was controversial. You took them. Everyone should check out our NFL Plus show from last week. We did a draft where we took all the rookies and we could take. I think we only had 3 picks each, so 9 players taken overall. Devon Achane moved into the top 9 overall rookies in this class. Controversial pick by the Zeuser.
Yeah.
He backed it up with a big performance. But people are wondering injury risk.
Well, my top pick was Anthony Richardson, and my third pick was Achane. I don't even know who my second pick was, but I hope he's okay. He's probably in a great bit of physical discomfort, would be my guess. I don't remember who it was.
It's an explosive offense.
Oh, it was Puka Nacua. But hey, kid, get safe. Go somewhere. Go under the bed and hide, because I took you, my injury-plagued rookie all-stars. Deshaun Watson, also an injury situation. And this one's a little weird, Greggy, because Watson was cleared to play in week 4, right? And then he worked out on the field before their game. Who's it against? It was against who they got wiped out by last week.
The Ravens.
And he couldn't go. So even though he was cleared to play, he wasn't feeling right, so they scratched him. Then they had a bye week, the Browns. And now we're into prep for 49ers week, and Kevin Stefanski wouldn't commit to Watson playing in week 6. I think that is obviously something to keep an eye on here, because that means even with this additional rest, it's not a situation where Watson is feeling himself, and you just wonder what exactly is going on in that right shoulder.
Yeah, he worked out before the game, and this would kind of slip through the cracks for us because I hadn't been following it as closely. That Stefanski literally said during the week of practice that he had been cleared medically, and that's why it's just strange. And the Browns reporter, I believe it was on The Athletic that I was reading, pointed out the similarities to the situation with Baker Mayfield and Kevin Stefanski, where they were saying he was medically cleared, and there was kind of this whole back and forth thing that he was playing through an injury that Stefanski talked about. And it's just very odd to say your quarterback was medically cleared, and they obviously have gone out of their way to say, of course Deshaun Watson will play through pain, and he's just not feeling right. He knows his body. We know he's a warrior, all that stuff, but just kind of a strange situation that was compounded by the announcers of that game saying, look, they thought all week Watson was playing, and they were surprised at the last second, essentially, that they had to play Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and now he might not be ready for this week. We'll see. It's just something to watch.
Yes, we do not need to see DTR again. That was a rough debut by the kid. Leighton Vander Esch, Cowboys linebacker, veteran, important guy for them. He could be headed to injured reserve after he suffered a neck injury in week 5's blowout loss to the 49ers. And the Lions lose one of their big ticket signings, Emmanuel Mosley, tore his ACL, played 2 snaps and blew his ACL. So he is obviously done for the year. That's the injury.
Devastating. He tore one ACL. I think it was his left last year, and still ended up getting a nice free agent contract because he's a good cornerback with a decent amount of guaranteed money.
1 for 6 he got.
Yeah, but just coming off of a torn ACL for a young guy, but not a especially proven. Yeah, they believed in him, and then tore the other ACL. Your heart kind of breaks for him. And I was really worried about Vander Esch, that this could be a more serious injury. They do say it's 4 to 6 weeks. So considering his history with neck injuries, hopefully, he's able to play football again this year. That'd be great.
Yeah, and that Detroit, things are great for the Lions right now, but that secondary is getting tested now with the depth. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, another addition in the offseason. He's on IR with a pectoral injury. We don't know if he's coming back. And Mosley tore the ACL also against the Panthers almost 1 year to the day. He suffers the same injury. So that is a tough break. It is a brutal sport, Greggy. That's what's happening in the news. Anything else to share?
Well, we're always here late. It's Monday night. We did a show earlier, whatnot, and we're always ending with and this guy's season is over with the torn ACL. It's kind of a bummer way to end the day. So, we need to just, I don't know, do some jokes, talk Dodgers baseball. Mark's there right now. Are they blowing it?
They were down.
They're down 4-2.
Yeah, that's a tough sitch too. So we're not going to get. It's the bottom of the ninth. Actually, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go watch the end of that Dodger game.
Okay, we do have a show to prep for too. We're going to be previewing the primetime games, maybe a little something else on Tuesday.
We got some fun for you guys coming up, and we'll be on a plane. We got to catch a bird to England tomorrow. So everybody over there, thank you for your support. Come say hi, and if you're at the live show, let's have a party. Let's get wild. All right. Till next time, heed the call.